80th birthday last week. To apologize on her behalf for her inability to be here today. She will be here tomorrow. Mr. Chairman, I should have been the person to stand in for her, but unfortunately my eyes are giving me a bit of trouble and they require a bit of mending, I think. So I can't read. I would therefore, if with your permission, Mr. Chairman and fellow delegates, I would like to nominate another activist, someone who contributed very significantly in the work of the committee. I would like to nominate Chief Asom Bur, who was not only former permanent secretary at the federal level, at one time he was administrator Nigerian Labour Congress, and at another time he was deputy governor Benue State. Mr. Chairman, before leaving, handing over to Chief Asom Bur, I hope Chief Asom Bur is around. Mr. Chairman, before finally handing over to him, permit me to pay tribute to members of this Public Service Committee members. The members worked not only tirelessly, but they overstretched themselves in some cases, working virtually day and night, because public service is so large and so all-consuming. However, as the engine that drives the nation forward, I think they did very well. And I would like to say, on behalf of the chairman and myself, that we really appreciated what they did for Nigeria. I hope Nigeria will benefit from the efforts they put in. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. So the report will now be presented by the deputy chairman, which is really, this is very reassuring. It shows that all the members of the committee are really conversant with the recommendations, and it's a sort of unanimous recommendation. So, Mr. Deputy,
thank you.
Now on to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The high table, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, one of the 19 committees set up by the conference was the Public Service Committee. And as explained by the deputy chairman, it was made up of very resilient public officers with considerable years of experience in the public service. And we had very useful discussions. I believe those of you who have read our report, we agree that we did a thorough job of the public service, and our report is self-explanatory. I would like to say that we approached our assignment from the perspectives of the historical aspect of the civil service, the public service generally, and gave highlight of its evolution from the pre-colonial period to the immediate nationalistic drives for independence, and then post-independence and various reforms that took place under this civil service to make it address the issues of implementation of public policies in this country. We highlighted the significance of public service in Nigeria, that it remains the engine house of government in the implementation of policies laid down by the political class. We had 6 chapters of our report, and we looked at the historical aspect and background of the Nigerian public service. We then, in chapter 2, we looked at, in the first chapter we did the introduction, and the second chapter we looked at the historical aspect. And then we considered various problems in the civil service under the 3rd chapter, and we considered so many interactive areas where we invited public officers and stakeholders in the public service to have dialogue with us. We found their appearances before us very useful. Then we looked at the various reform measures that have been taking place over the years in the public service, and we highlighted some of the things largely affecting the morale in the civil service, which has to do with the reforms that are external to the civil service. Most of the reforms were such that before the recommendations are implemented, there will be either a change of government or new reforms are being introduced. So we find that there was lack of continuity in the implementation of the reforms as they affect the civil service. And we found that because of the series of changes in government, the public service had suffered untold reforms, which themselves have contributed a lot to the instability in the service. We observed that constant changes in government, changes in government systems, changes in governmental policies, executive pronouncements, dictates from external organizations such as World Bank, IMF, etc., on the need to downsize the federal service and the need to make the service more responsive to the challenges that new regimes bring about, especially during the military regimes. And we considered about 20-something reforms that are taking place in the public service. We noted that the most devastating of these reforms to the public service was the decree number 43 of 1988, which actually put a halt to public accountability and virtually killed the esprit de corps in the service. And these reforms were introduced by Dr. Phillips, who was an outsider. And we observed that in most cases, those who are invited to reform public service are from outside. And in most cases, they are least experienced. They are, they are not as experienced as those of us who have been in the service, up to the top. But when they come with some borrowed ideas here and there, they introduce this that government accepts, and the implementation becomes impossible. We observe that the best reforms that have been carried, reforms 1974-75, which actually introduced managerial skills and techniques, as well as increased salaries. Unfortunately, these reforms were not fully implemented. Only the monetary aspect were implemented. The rest, there was no time to implement before new reforms were introduced. We found that the current reform measures embarked upon by the present regime, that is the needs, the seeds, and perhaps the leaves at the local government level, aim at wealth creation, employment generation, poverty reduction, and value reorientation. It is hoped that these goals can be achieved by creating an environment in which business can strive, government redirected, providing basic services, and people redirected and empowered to take advantage of the new livelihood opportunities the plan will stipulate. Needs also currently being implemented, hopes to punish corruption and graft, campaign to instill the virtues of honesty, hard work, selfless service, moral rectitude, patriotism, and involve NGOs and civil service organizations in the crusade. We hope that if these are implemented very carefully, they are steps in the right direction. We looked at the structure and organization of the public service in Nigeria, and we observed that the structures, both at the federal and state level, are very unwieldy. There are too many ministries, too many departments, and in some cases, we have found that there are more public commissioners and ministers than the ministries exist. In some cases, we found that the permanent secretaries are more than the number of ministries, both at the state level. Then we had, in our interactive session, obtained a data that is very interesting for this conference. We observed that the total number of public servants in the Federation are 2.5 million altogether. Total number of public servants in the Federal Public Service, 1.2 million. Then total number of civil servants in the civil service of the Federation, 160,000. Total number of public servants in parastatals, 1.04 million. Total number of federal ministries, 31. Total number of federal ministers, 42. You can see that there are 31 ministries and 42 ministers. Then the total number of permanent secretaries, 39. In all this, it was found that the situation in the state is not dissimilar, and in fact, worse in some cases. In the state, we found that the ministries number up to 17, and the number of commissioners and permanent secretaries range from 27 to 54. The same problem of political appointees in excess of the structure in the service exists in the state and at the local government level. We found that on the whole, officers are created to suit political appointments rather than the service needs. And we discovered in our own interactive session with stakeholders that In fact, there are so many people who have been brought in by the politicians and dumped on the service. As their tenure ends as political appointees, they don't go away with these people they bring and plant at the top level of the echelons of service. And these are the ones that help to blot the service. We have also found that 70% of the present civil service constitute people in level 1 to 6. The civil service is therefore heavily bloated at this level, requiring some rationalization. We made some series of recommendations based on our discoveries and what we have found in the service. We recommend that as far as the structure of the civil service is concerned, they should, rather than sack people as the needs plans, they should right-size the service and not downsize it. That is the best way to do. And we recommend training and retraining of public officers to avoid the consequences of retrenchment that has many side effects on employment in this country. We dealt with the pension, and we noticed that out of 65 memoranda we received from the public, over half of them came on the matter of pensions and retirement. That goes to emphasize the crucial importance of what the conference will look at. Most of us sitting here are retirees, and therefore the issue of paying pension is crucial to us. The government has realized the need to change the policy on pay-as-you-go pension scheme and has introduced contributory pension scheme, which we believe in the committee that it is the right step in the right direction. Except that we feel that the 97 billion naira required to pay arrears of pension should be budgeted for in the next 3 years, and all arrears owed to retirees should be cleared. We looked at parastatals and we found that they are very unwieldy, and we accept the current policy reforms of the federal government which aim at privatizing some of them and commercializing others or rationalizing the rest. We feel that it is in the status that there is also a lot of dumping of political appointees from the ministries, especially the political class. Most of the boards are not constituted, and parastatals are being ruled directly by the ministers. We recommend that all the boards and parastatals should be duly constituted immediately. And this is to help at least run them more efficiently, and then to hasten the privatization policy of the government on this. Government should review the system of disposal of public assets to accommodate as many Nigerians as possible. Secondly, certain strategic parastatals, such as the National Security Printing and Mining Company, the Railways, Defense Industries Corporation, etc., should not be privatized but commercialized because of their strategic importance to the nation. The committee urges government to carry out an audit of staff of dissolved bodies such as DIFRI, PTF, CMD, FUMTA, who have been dumped on the service, resulting in overbloating, and apply to them the same treatment proposed in the restructuring of the ministries that have these problems. It is recommended that before the retrenchment exercise in the public service is undertaken, action should first of all be taken on the recommendations that deal with those who are dumped by political appointees in the service. They will either regularize their appointment or relieve them of their appointment as the first measure to relieve the overbloating in the public service, and not directly sack those who are trained and have long years of service as public officers. The committee urges government to give urgent consideration to an upward review of the percentages payable to public servants in respect of housing, medical, vehicle, and furniture allowances under the monetization policy of the government in order to make them realistic and practicable in the prevailing economic circumstances. Government should modify the conditions laid down by the National Housing Fund to facilitate easy access to loans by public servants. Government should provide accommodation for creches in secretariats to ease the burden of mothers. This will enhance efficiency and reduce absenteeism, especially of mothers who are nursing children. The committee supports the current measures by the government to curb corruption through creation of institutions such as ICPC, EFCC, Code of Conduct Bureau and its tribunal, and recommends that these institutions be given adequate funding and the enabling powers and autonomy to carry out their functions efficiently and without fear or favor. The committee also recommends that government should make constitutional provision for the inadequacies or institutions like the EFCC, Civil Service Commission, ICPC, Code of Conduct Bureau, etc. The committee recommends that the head of service and the Civil Service Commission should jointly monitor civil service practices and procedures and maintenance of the ethics and norms of the service in order to restore the respect and confidence of the public service. The committee supports the request of the judiciary for direct funding. It is felt that this will enable the judiciary to maintain its autonomy and independence and to more effective in performing its own functions. We have short-term and long-term recommendations, and we feel that some of the things I'm announcing there are short-term, but in the case of long terms, the rules and regulations operating in the public service should be reviewed and updated in keeping with the changes in politics and in political, economic, and social institutions in order to make them more relevant for effective performance. A comprehensive job analysis, job evaluation, and job classification in the public service should be undertaken to determine the manning scales, staff requirements, in order to make the public service a reliable and effective organ of governance. The proposed Civil Service College in Abuja, ASCON, and the FCTs should be refurbished, and training should be made regular at all times. In conclusion, we feel that what the public service requires is sympathy of this conference that for the next decade or more, the public service will remain the engine of implementation of the public policies. And we seriously recommend that its current policies should be addressed rather than condemning it totally. Thank you very much.